My name is Emma Parker, and I'm a 29-year-old marketing coordinator from Portland, Oregon. Imagine living in what you think is your dream apartment, paying rent on time every month for 2 years, only to discover that your own sister has been your secret landlord the entire time, and she just tripled your rent without batting an eye. That's exactly what happened to me last month when I got an eviction notice that would change our family forever. She actually looked me in the eye while I begged her to reconsider, acting like she had no choice in the matter. But what she didn't know was that I had already started investigating who really owned my building. What I discovered next exposed a web of lies that went back years and changed everything between us forever. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know in the comments if you've ever had family members hide major secrets from you. I'd love to know how you handled it. Here's what happened. It started 3 weeks ago with a certified letter that made my blood run cold. The envelope was thick, official looking, with "Notice to quit" stamped in red letters across the front. My hands shook as I tore it open, standing right there in my apartment mailroom. "Dear tenant of Unit 4B," it began, "your monthly rent will increase from $1,200 to $3,600 effective immediately. Failure to pay the increased amount within 30 days will result in eviction proceedings. $3,600, triple my current rent, for my one-bedroom apartment in the Pearl District that I'd been renting for 2 years. The same apartment where I'd never been late with a payment, never caused problems, never even gotten a noise complaint." I read the letter 5 times before the words sank in. This had to be a mistake. Some kind of administrative error. I'd heard about rent increases in Portland, but tripling overnight? That was insane. Illegal even. The property management company letterhead read Cascade Property Solutions. I'd been sending my $1,200 check to them every month like clockwork. Never had a single issue. My lease renewal had just gone through 6 months ago with only a modest $50 increase. Standing there in that mailroom, clutching that letter, I felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. This apartment wasn't just where I lived. It was my sanctuary. After years of roommate drama and overpriced studios, I'd finally found a place that felt like home. The exposed brick walls, the huge windows overlooking the park, the perfect location within walking distance of my job at Morrison Marketing. I'd built my entire life around this place. My coffee routine at the shop downstairs, my weekend farmers market walks, my evening yoga sessions on the hardwood floors I'd learned to love. Now someone wanted to take all of that away for money I didn't have and couldn't possibly get. I called the management company immediately. The receptionist, Sandra, knew me by voice after 2 years of maintenance, requests, and lease questions. "Oh, hi, Emma," she said when I identified myself. "I was wondering when you'd call about the notice." "Sandra, there has to be some mistake. My rent is $1,200, not $3,600. This increase is impossible." There was a pause, papers shuffling. "I'm looking at your file now, honey." The property owner submitted a formal rent increase request last week. It's all legal and properly documented. "But it's 3 times what I'm paying now. How is that legal?" "Oregon law allows rent increases of any amount with proper 90-day notice for month-to-month tenancies. Your lease converted to month-to-month after your last renewal." My heart sank. I remembered signing something about the month-to-month conversion, thinking it would give me more flexibility. I never imagined it would make me vulnerable to this. "Who is the property owner?" I asked, scrambling for a pen. "I need to speak to them directly about this." Another pause, longer this time. "The ownership is held through a limited liability company. All communications have to go through our office." "What's the name of the LLC?" I I can't give out that information over the phone. You'd need to submit a written request. Something in her voice made my stomach twist. Sandra had always been chatty, helpful, willing to bend rules to help tenants. Now she sounded nervous, like she was reading from a script. Sandra, level with me. What's really going on here? Emma, I wish I could help more, but my hands are tied. The owner was very specific about the increase in the timeline. After I hung up, I sat on my couch. My perfect couch that I'd saved 3 months to buy, positioned exactly right to catch the afternoon light, and tried to think rationally. Who would do this? Who would want to force me out so badly they'd triple my rent? The obvious answer was gentrification. Some developer wanted to renovate and flip units for luxury pricing. But something felt personal about this. The timing, the amount, the sudden change after 2 years of stable tenancy. I needed help, and I knew exactly who to call. Triple your rent? My sister Rachel's voice came through the phone sharp with indignation. Emma, that's absolutely insane. You have to fight this. Rachel was my older sister by 4 years, a successful real estate agent who'd been in Portland's market for over a decade. If anyone would know how to handle this situation, it would be her. I don't even know where to start, I admitted, pacing my soon-to-be former living room. The management company won't tell me who owns the building. That's suspicious right there, Rachel said immediately. Legitimate property owners don't hide behind LLCs unless they're up to something shady. Where did you say this building was again? The Pearl District. You know, that converted warehouse building on Northwest 10th? You helped me find this place, remember? Silence. Complete silence for at least 10 seconds. Rachel? Are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Just thinking. You know what? Don't worry about any of this. I'll handle everything. What do you mean, you'll handle it? I have connections in the real estate world. Let me make some calls, do some digging. I'll figure out who's behind this and get them to back down. You just sit tight and don't pay that ridiculous increase. Relief flooded through me. This was exactly why I'd called Rachel. She was the problem solver in our family, the one who always knew how to navigate complicated situations. Thank you so much, Rach. I was starting to panic. Don't panic. This is going to work out, trust me, okay? I'll call you back tomorrow with a plan. But Rachel didn't call back the next day, or the day after that. When I finally reached her 3 days later, she sounded distracted, evasive. I'm still working on it, she said quickly. These things take time. Real estate law is complicated. Did you find out who owns the building? Not yet. The LLC structure is more complex than I thought. Just be patient, Emma. And whatever you do, don't hire a lawyer or start making a fuss. That could backfire and make things worse. Don't hire a lawyer? That seemed like odd advice from someone who dealt with real estate disputes regularly, but Rachel was the expert, not me. 2 weeks passed. The deadline in my eviction notice was approaching fast, and I still hadn't heard anything concrete from Rachel. My anxiety was through the roof. I was sleeping poorly, stress eating at work, snapping at my coworkers over minor things. My boss, Jennifer, pulled me aside after I'd had a meltdown over a client presentation that was going perfectly fine. Emma, what's going on? This isn't like you. I broke down and told her everything, the rent increase, the eviction threat, Rachel's promise to help that seemed to be going nowhere. Have you tried looking up the property records yourself? Jennifer asked. It's all public information. You can search by address on the county website. I stared at her. You can do that? Of course. Property ownership is public record. Here, let me show you. Right there in Jennifer's office, she pulled up the Multnomah County Property Records website. She typed in my address: 1247 NW 10th Avenue, Unit 4B. "Let's see what we get," she murmured, clicking search. The results loaded slowly: property details, tax information, ownership history, and there, in black and white, was the current owner information. Riverside Holdings, LLC, registered agent, Rachel M. Parker. Rachel M. Parker. My sister Rachel. The room spun slightly. Jennifer was still talking, but her voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Emma. Emma, are you okay? You've gone completely white." That's my sister," I whispered. "Your sister owns your building?" "My sister is trying to evict me from my own building. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember walking up the stairs to my apartment. Rachel's apartment, apparently. I just remember sitting on my couch, staring at the printed property records Jennifer had given me. Riverside Holdings, LLC, established 3 years ago. Rachel M. Parker, registered agent and managing member. The building purchased 2.5 years ago for $2.8 million, 6 months before I moved in. My mind raced backward through every conversation, every interaction. Rachel helping me find this place. How convenient that it was available exactly when I needed it. How the application process had been unusually smooth. How I'd gotten approved within 24 hours when other places had wait lists. She'd been my landlord the entire time. Every rent check I'd written to Cascade Property Solutions had ultimately ended up in my sister's bank account. Every maintenance request, every lease renewal, every interaction with the management company, Rachel had been behind it all. But why? Why the secrecy? And more importantly, why was she now trying to force me out with an impossible rent increase? My phone rang. Rachel's name on the screen. For a moment, I considered not answering, but I needed to hear her voice, to give her a chance to explain before I lost my mind completely. "Hey, Em, any word from the management company about your situation?" The casual tone, the fake concern, it made my stomach turn. "Actually, yes. I found out something very interesting today." "Oh yeah? What's that?" "I found out who owns my building." Silence, the kind of dead silence that screams guilt. "Rachel, is there something you want to tell me?" Emma, I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been lying to me for 2 years? That you've been my secret landlord while pretending to help me with my landlord problems?" "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think. You own my building. You've owned it since before I moved in. You helped me find this place because you wanted a reliable tenant, and that tenant was me. Emma, please let me. And now you're trying to evict me, your own sister, with a rent increase that you know I can't afford." I was surprised by how calm my voice sounded. Inside, I was screaming, but the words came out steady and controlled. "I need the money, Emma. I'm sorry, but I need the income from that unit." "You need $1,200 a month so badly that you have to make it $3,600? That's not about need, Rachel. That's about greed." "You don't understand the whole situation." "Then explain it to me. Explain why my sister has been lying to my face for 2 years." Rachel sighed deeply. "Can I come over?" "This isn't a conversation for the phone." "Your building, your rules, apparently." "Emma, don't be like that." "Don't be like what? Hurt that my own sister has been deceiving me? Angry that you're trying to make me homeless? How exactly should I be, Rachel?" "Just let me come over. Please. I'll explain everything." An hour later, Rachel sat across from me in my living room. Our living room. Her living room? I wasn't even sure anymore. She looked nervous, fidgeting with her keys, avoiding eye contact. I never meant for it to happen this way, she began. What way? The lying way or the evicting way? Either. Both. Emma, you have to understand. When I bought this building, I was trying to help you. Help me by lying to me? Help you by giving you a stable place to live at below market rent in a neighborhood you couldn't otherwise afford. I stared at her. Below market rent? The other units in this building rent for $1,800 to $2,200 a month. I've been charging you $1,200 because you're my sister. So this has been charity? For 2 years, I've been your charity case? That's not how I meant it. But that's what it was. You felt sorry for your little sister who couldn't afford to live in the Pearl District on her marketing coordinator salary. So you bought her a building to live in and charged her discount rent. Rachel's face flushed. I was trying to be generous. Generous would have been telling me the truth. Generous would have been saying, "Hey, Emma, I'm buying an investment property. Would you like to rent a unit from me?" Instead, you created this elaborate lie. I knew you wouldn't take it if you knew I owned it. You're damn right I wouldn't have taken it. I don't want handouts from my family. See? That's exactly why I didn't tell you. I stood up, pacing to the window that overlooked the park. The view I'd fallen in love with, that I'd thought was mine, that had apparently been subsidized by my sister's pity. So why now? I asked without turning around. Why the sudden rent increase? Why are you trying to kick me out? I'm not trying to kick you out. I'm trying to bring your rent up to market rate. $3,600 is not market rate, Rachel. You just told me the other units rent for $1,800 to $2,200. Another silence. When I turned around, Rachel was staring at her hands. There's someone else who wants to rent your unit. What? A couple. They're willing to pay $3,600 a month. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. You're evicting me for money. You found tenants who will pay more, so you're getting rid of me. Emma, it's not personal. It's completely personal. I'm your sister. And this is business. I have a mortgage on this building. I have expenses, maintenance costs, property taxes. I can't afford to keep subsidizing your rent when I could be making an extra $2,000 a month from that unit. So kick out your sister for profit. Got it. You're being dramatic. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Dramatic? Rachel, you've been lying to me for 2 years about owning my home, and now you're forcing me out for money. If anything, I'm being remarkably calm. Look, I'll give you time to find another place. More than the 30 days, in the notice. I'm not heartless. Just greedy. I'm practical. I'm a business owner. You're my sister. I can be both. I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. The fight went out of me all at once, replaced by a bone-deep sadness I hadn't expected. Did you ever care about me living here? Or was it always just about having a reliable tenant? Rachel's expression softened slightly. Of course I cared. I wanted you to be happy and secure. But not enough to keep caring when someone offered you more money. Emma, that's not fair. None of this is fair, Rachel. None of it. We sat in silence for several minutes. Outside, I could hear the sounds of the neighborhood I was about to lose. The coffee shop owner rolling in his sidewalk sign for the night. The couple upstairs coming home from dinner. The life I'd built, about to be dismantled for my sister's profit margin. What if I could pay more? I asked finally. Not $3,600, but more than $1,200. What if I could do $1,500, $1,600? Rachel shook her head. Emma, the other couple is already approved. They've put down a deposit. You already rented my apartment? It's not your apartment. The words hit like a slap. Right. It's your apartment that I've been living in under false pretenses for 2 years. You haven't been living under false pretenses. You've been living here as my tenant. Your tenant who didn't know you were her landlord. Your tenant who thought she had a normal rental relationship with a management company. The management company is legitimate. They handle day-to-day operations for lots of property owners. They handle day-to-day operations while you hide behind an LLC so your own sister doesn't know she's paying you rent. Rachel stood up abruptly. I don't have to justify my business decisions to you. No, but you do have to live with the fact that you're choosing money over family. That's not what this is about. It's exactly what this is about. You have a choice right now, Rachel. You can honor the relationship we've had for 29 years, or you can prioritize profit from strangers. And you're choosing the strangers. I'm choosing financial security. You're choosing greed. Rachel grabbed her purse from the coffee table. I need to go. The new tenants move in November 1st. That gives you 6 weeks to find something else. 6 weeks to find a place I can actually afford in a city where rent prices are insane. You'll figure it out? You always do. She walked toward the door, then paused with her hand on the knob. For what it's worth, Emma, I am sorry it worked out this way. No, you're not. If you were sorry, you'd change your mind. I can't change my mind. I already signed the lease with the new tenants. Then you're not sorry, you're just guilty. After Rachel left, I sat alone in the apartment that was no longer mine, surrounded by furniture and belongings that would soon need to find a new home. The weight of the betrayal settled over me like a heavy blanket. My sister, the person I'd trusted most in the world, had been lying to me for 2 years. Every family dinner where I'd complained about apartment hunting, every conversation where she'd given me advice about dealing with landlords, every moment of stress I'd shared about housing costs. She'd known the entire time that she was the one in control of my situation. But there was something else nagging at me, something beyond the hurt and anger. Rachel's nervousness during our conversation, the way she'd avoided eye contact, the rushed explanation about needing the money. None of it felt right. Rachel was successful, established in her career, financially stable as far as I knew. Why would she suddenly need an extra $2,000 a month so desperately that she'd evict her own sister? I opened my laptop and did something I probably should have done weeks ago. I started researching. Property records were just the beginning. I dug into business filings, looking up Riverside Holdings LLC and its financial history. What I found made my stomach drop. Riverside Holdings wasn't just the owner of my building. It was the owner of 4 buildings throughout Portland, all purchased within a 3-year span. The total investment, nearly $12 million. $12 million in real estate debt. And according to the public filings I could access, the company was leveraged to the hilt. High loan-to-value ratios, variable interest rates that had been climbing steadily, balloon payments coming due. Rachel wasn't just being greedy, she was drowning. I spent the next 3 hours going down a rabbit hole of public records, property transactions, and business filings. The picture that emerged was of someone who had gotten in over her head, fast. Rachel had started buying investment properties right before the market peaked. She'd used aggressive financing, assuming that Portland's real estate boom would continue indefinitely. When interest rates started rising and the market began to cool, she was trapped. The building I lived in wasn't just her first investment property, it was her most stable one. The other 3 buildings had higher vacancy rates, more maintenance issues, more problematic tenants. My building, with its prime location and well-maintained units, was probably the only thing keeping her entire real estate empire afloat. And I had been living there at a below-market rent, representing lost income she could no longer afford to give up. Suddenly, the $3,600 rent demand made sense. It wasn't about market rate, it was about desperation. Rachel needed every penny she could get to service her debt and avoid foreclosure. But that raised another question. If she was in such dire financial straits, how had she found tenants willing to pay that much? I pulled up rental listings for comparable units in the neighborhood. Nothing came close to $3,600 for a one-bedroom, unless I opened a new browser tab and searched for luxury corporate housing in Portland. Companies that relocated executives, short-term rentals for business travelers, furnished apartments for people with unlimited expense accounts. There it was, Pacific Corporate Suites. Temporary executive housing starting at $3,500 a month for furnished one-bedrooms in premium locations. Rachel hadn't found regular tenants willing to pay an inflated rent. She'd found a corporate client who would pay premium prices for a furnished short-term rental. She was converting my apartment, and probably others in the building, into corporate housing to maximize revenue. The betrayal suddenly felt even deeper. This wasn't just about needing more income. This was about completely changing the nature of the building, turning it from residential housing into a business operation. And she was willing to displace her own sister to do it. But if I understood Rachel's financial situation, maybe I could use that knowledge to negotiate. Or maybe I could find another solution entirely. I reached for my phone to call her back, then stopped. If I was going to confront Rachel with what I'd discovered, I needed to be strategic about it. I needed to think through what I wanted to accomplish and what leverage I actually had. Because if Rachel was as desperate as her financial situation suggested, simply appealing to family loyalty wasn't going to work. I needed to offer her something she needed more than the corporate rental income. Or I needed to find a way to make evicting me more expensive than keeping me. The next morning, I called in sick to work and made an appointment with a tenant's rights attorney. If Rachel wanted to play hardball with her own sister, I needed to understand exactly what rights I had. Attorney Susan Walsh's office was in a converted house in southeast Portland, her waiting room filled with stressed-looking people clutching eviction notices and lease agreements. I fit right in. "Ms. Parker," she said, reviewing the documents I'd brought. "This is an interesting situation." That's one word for it. From a legal standpoint, your sister has the right to raise your rent with proper notice. Oregon's rent control laws allow significant increases for month-to-month tenancies. My heart sank. So I have no recourse? I didn't say that. There are several factors that could work in your favor. She pulled out a yellow legal pad and started making notes. First, you've been paying below market rent for 2 years without knowing the landlord was your sister. That could constitute a form of fraud or misrepresentation. How so? If she intentionally concealed her ownership to induce you to enter into a tenancy relationship you wouldn't have agreed to otherwise, that's potentially actionable. I definitely wouldn't have agreed to rent from my sister. Second, the timing and amount of the increase could be considered retaliatory if there have been any disputes between you recently. No disputes, at least, not until now. Third, and most importantly, if this building is being converted to corporate housing or short-term rentals, there may be zoning violations or permit requirements that haven't been met. I sat up straighter. What do you mean? Residential buildings have different zoning requirements than commercial or hospitality properties. If your sister is renting to corporate clients or operating what amounts to a hotel, she may need special permits. And if she doesn't have them? Then she's operating illegally, which gives us significant leverage. Susan leaned back in her chair. "Ms. Parker, I'll be honest with you. Family disputes over real estate are some of the messiest cases I handle. They rarely end well for family relationships. The relationship is already damaged. I just want to protect myself." Understood. Here's what I recommend. Let me do some research into the zoning and permit situation for your building. If we can establish that your sister is operating outside the law, we can negotiate from a position of strength. How long will that take? A few days. In the meantime, document everything. Every conversation with your sister, every interaction with the management company, every piece of evidence about corporate tenants or short-term rentals. What kind of evidence should I look for? Corporate logos on moving trucks, business travelers coming and going, furnished units, anything that suggests the building is being used for purposes other than traditional residential housing. I left Susan's office feeling more hopeful than I had in weeks. For the first time since receiving that eviction notice, I had a plan that didn't involve begging my sister for mercy. Over the next 3 days, I became a detective in my own building. I started paying attention to who was coming and going, what kind of luggage they carried, how long they stayed. The results were eye-opening. Unit 2A had 3 different occupants in the past month, all carrying corporate briefcases and staying for exactly 1 week each. Unit 3B was currently occupied by a woman who introduced herself as being here on business from Seattle. Unit 4A, directly across the hall from me, had a man who mentioned he was in town for a 3-month software consulting contract. None of these were traditional residential tenants. They were exactly the kind of corporate clients who would pay premium rates for furnished, short-term accommodations. Rachel had converted the entire building except for my unit. I photographed everything I could without being obvious about it. License plates from corporate rental cars, business cards left on the lobby table, the fancy luggage and laptop bags that corporate travelers carried. But the smoking gun came on Thursday afternoon. I was coming home from work when I saw a familiar logo on a moving truck. Outside the building, Pacific Corporate Suites. The same company I'd found online, the one that specialized in executive housing. 2 men were unloading furniture into the lobby. Not personal belongings, furniture. Matching sets of corporate bland couches, coffee tables, and lamps. The kind of anonymous, inoffensive furnishings you'd find in any business hotel. I pulled out my phone and started recording, staying far enough away to avoid suspicion. "Excuse me," I called to one of the movers. "Are you delivering to multiple units?" "Yeah, 4 units today. Buildings being converted to corporate housing. Nice gig. All the apartments get the same furniture package." 4 units? Everything except 4B. That tenant's being relocated next week. Then we'll furnish that one too. My hands shook as I ended the recording. Rachel hadn't just found one corporate client for my apartment. She'd converted the entire building into a corporate housing facility. And she'd done it all while lying to me about her intentions. I called Susan Walsh immediately. "Ms. Parker, this is exactly what we needed," she said after I described what I'd witnessed. "I've been researching the zoning for your building, and it's zoned for residential use only. Operating a corporate housing facility requires a conditional use permit and compliance with hospitality regulations." "And my sister doesn't have those?" "I checked with the city. No permits have been filed for that address. She's operating illegally." What does that mean for my situation? It means we have significant leverage. Operating without proper permits can result in fines, forced closure, and legal liability. Your sister needs to fix this situation immediately, and that gives us room to negotiate. What kind of negotiation? That depends on what you want to accomplish. Do you want to stay in the apartment at your current rent? Do you want compensation for the deception? Do you want to force her to comply with zoning laws? I thought about it for a moment. What did I want? I wanted my sister to stop lying to me. I wanted to feel secure in my housing situation. And honestly, I wanted her to face some consequences for treating me like a disposable tenant instead of family. I want to stay in the apartment, I said finally, at a fair rent, not the subsidized rate and not the inflated corporate rate, and I want a long-term lease so she can't pull this again. That sounds reasonable. Anything else? I want her to get proper permits for the corporate housing operation or shut it down. She doesn't get to break the law just because she's in financial trouble. Understood. Let me draft a letter outlining the legal issues and our proposed resolution. We'll give her an opportunity to resolve this voluntarily before filing any formal complaints. And if she refuses? Then we file complaints with the city about the zoning violations and pursue legal action for fraud and misrepresentation. I felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness as I hung up the phone. I was finally taking control of the situation, but it meant going to war with my own sister. That evening, Rachel called me. "Emma, I heard you were asking questions around the building today." News traveled fast in a small building, apparently. I was being observant. "The movers said you were recording them." I was documenting what I saw. "Emma, what are you doing?" "I'm protecting myself, Rachel. Something you clearly have no interest in doing." "We already discussed this. You have 6 weeks to find a new place." "Actually, we need to discuss something else. Something about zoning permits and corporate housing operations." Silence. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I'm talking about the fact that you've converted this entire building into illegal corporate housing without the proper permits. I'm talking about Pacific Corporate Suites and their furniture deliveries. I'm talking about the fact that you're operating a business in a residential building without city approval." The silence stretched longer this time. "Emma, you don't understand the situation." "I understand it perfectly. You're breaking the law to maximize your rental income, and you're willing to evict your own sister to cover it up. It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple. You have a choice, Rachel. Fix this legally, or I report the zoning violations to the city." "You wouldn't do that to your own sister." "My own sister wouldn't lie to me for 2 years and then try to make me homeless. But here we are." "What do you want?" "I want a fair lease agreement at market rate, $1,800 a month, 2-year term, normal landlord-tenant relationship with full disclosure. And I want you to either get proper permits for the corporate housing or shut it down." "Emma, I can't afford to charge you only $1,800. Then you can't afford to own this building, Rachel. That's not my problem. The corporate housing brings in 4 times that amount. Illegally, which means it can be shut down at any time, leaving you with nothing." Another long pause. "I need time to think about this." "You have 48 hours. After that, I file complaints with the city and pursue legal action for fraud." "You're really going to destroy your own sister?" "I'm not destroying you, Rachel. I'm protecting myself from being destroyed by you." I hung up before she could respond. 2 days later, Susan Walsh called me with news. "Your sister's attorney contacted me this morning. They want to negotiate." "What kind of negotiation?" "They're proposing a lease agreement at $1,900 a month with a 2-year term. They're also agreeing to file for proper permits for the corporate housing operation." $1,900 is more than we discussed. But it's significantly less than the $3,600 she was demanding, and it's still below market rate for the area. Plus, the 2-year lease gives you security. What about the illegal operation? They're committing to file the permit applications within 30 days and cease operations until they're approved if necessary. It wasn't everything I'd wanted, but it was a reasonable compromise. "There's one more thing," Susan continued. "They're proposing a confidentiality agreement. Your sister doesn't want details about her financial situation or business practices becoming public." "What kind of confidentiality agreement?" "Standard non-disclosure language. You agree not to discuss the corporate housing operation or any information you discovered about her financial situation. I thought about it. Rachel's reputation and business were on the line. If word got out that she was operating illegally, it could damage her real estate career and her other properties. I'll agree to confidentiality if she agrees to one additional term. What's that? A family clause. If she ever wants to sell this building, she has to give me 90 days notice and first right of refusal at market price. That's unusual, but not unreasonable given the family relationship. 3 hours later, Susan called back. They've agreed to all terms. We can have the paperwork ready by tomorrow. The next afternoon, I sat in Susan Walsh's office across from Rachel and her attorney, signing a lease agreement that formalized what should have been a simple family conversation 2 years earlier. Rachel looked tired, older somehow. The stress of her financial situation was showing in the lines around her eyes and the way she held her shoulders. "Emma," she said as we finished signing documents, "I want you to know that I never intended for things to get this complicated." But they did get complicated, Rachel. Because you chose to lie instead of being honest. I was trying to help you. You were trying to help yourself. The below-market rent was never about generosity. It was about having a stable tenant you could count on while you figured out your bigger financial problems. She didn't deny it. And when your problems got worse, you were willing to sacrifice me to solve them. I'm sorry. I know you are, but being sorry doesn't undo 2 years of lies. We walked out of the office together, but it felt like we were walking in different directions. The new lease gave me what I needed: security, fair rent, and honest disclosure of our relationship. But it couldn't repair the trust that had been broken. 6 months later, Rachel and I have settled into a strange new normal. She's my landlord now, officially and legally. When something breaks in my apartment, I call the management company, and they handle it professionally. We still see each other at family gatherings, but there's a careful distance between us now. We talk about safe topics: work, weather, our parents' health, but we don't talk about real estate or money or trust. The corporate housing operation was eventually approved by the city after Rachel filed the proper permits and paid substantial fees. She's managing to keep her real estate empire afloat, though I suspect it's still a struggle. As for me, I've learned something valuable about the difference between help and manipulation. Real help is honest and transparent. It doesn't come with secret conditions or hidden agendas. I love my apartment. My legally rented, properly documented, fairly priced apartment. But more importantly, I love knowing exactly where I stand. The exposed brick walls are still beautiful. The view of the park is still perfect. The location is still convenient for my daily life. But now, when I look around my home, I see something different. I see a place where I learned to stand up for myself, even when it meant standing up to family. I see a place where I discovered that sometimes protecting yourself means disappointing people you love. And I see a place where I learned that honesty, even when it's complicated and uncomfortable, is always better than lies, even when they're meant to be kind. Rachel taught me an important lesson, just not the one she intended. She taught me that family relationships, like tenant relationships, work best when both parties know exactly what they're agreeing to. No secrets, no hidden agendas, no surprise evictions, just honest communication and mutual respect, even if it takes a lawyer and a lease agreement to get there. Thank you so much for watching my story. If this resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to stand up for yourself, even when it's family trying to take advantage. Comment below about the most difficult boundary you've had to set with a family member. How did it turn out? And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories about navigating complicated family dynamics with your dignity intact. Remember, just because someone is family doesn't mean they get to treat you unfairly. Your peace of mind and security matter, and you have the right to protect both. Until next time, this is Emma reminding you that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be taken advantage of, even by the people you care about most.